Bonus, bitches.
We're here. We've made it. This is the one. I don't think when we ever started this podcast, I ever thought I'd be this excited to talk about this show. I don't think we'd ever get to this level of love and appreciation, but here we are.
We've never really talked about TV.
No, it's very strange that we don't, actually.
God, I watch a lot of shit.
Your home life is quite different than mine.
This is true.
When it comes to media consumption, where we'll bounce around music because it's easy. We listen to it during a commute or just like a workout or, throw it on whenever you can. Film, you got to sit down and watch it. But for the most part, we're on the same wavelength. We recommend shit back and forth. Or you'll talk to me about something I haven't seen or vice versa, and we'll give you the time of day to converse about it. TV is one of those things that I don't have a lot of time for. Something about sharing a couch with your wife and a dog is not something that I've come in my life yet.
Yeah.
I'm on my way.
And I'm incredibly lucky that I have that and that my wife likes the same shit that I do for the most part.
You got it made.
I've got it made. And it's hard for me to recommend a TV show like, hey, Austin, Severance was really good. You should invest 8 hours of your life to watch it.
I took a leap of faith when it came to Better Call Saul because, God, I'm trying to think back when you even kind of got me onto it, but
it was around the time that we did El Camino for the podcast, the Breaking Bad movie.
I had started watching it prior to the podcast, and I had already made it 2 to 3 seasons in. I mean, I was burning through it. Breaking Bad came at a time where I don't think I had the full capacity to appreciate it when I did watch it, and it didn't stick with me as much as I thought it would, and as much as it was talked about at the time. I didn't get a lot out of it, I don't think.
Okay.
And I'm in the middle of rewatching it now, and I'm not as hooked as I thought I was going to be walking into it. Maybe it's the fact that I already know how the series ends, and it's maybe a little bit of I'll get there when I get there. I already know the ending. But I'm thinking about Better Call Saul, and I'm I need to get through Breaking Bad before I even get back on Better Call Saul. And I know once I start Better Call Saul again, I'll burn through it again. I know I will. It's not an uncommon thing for people to say now that the series is finished, but Better Call Saul, it did it better.
I agree.
It is Gilligan. Who's the other co-writer?
Peter Gould.
Peter Gould. I wanted to say that, but I didn't want to be wrong.
It's more his thing, I think, too. Vince Gilligan wasn't even involved from seasons 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It feels so much more special. It's peak. That style of writing and visual storytelling is masterclass compared to Breaking Bad.
Not to take anything away from Breaking Bad. That was the show that introduced me to how great television, a series can be.
Sure.
But yeah, I think stylistically, Better Call Saul ticks the boxes for me a little bit better. It's a little bit more slower. It's more emotional. It's not as driven by big events. And that actually might be the thing that detracts people from liking it as much as Breaking Bad.
I think in comparison to Breaking Bad, the fact that tensions are so much high because they are in this crime world. You're watching your average Joe, lower middle class, turn into drug lord. There's something exciting about that. But I think on a character level, the show is so much more shallow than Better Call Saul. I think all the characters in Breaking Bad, they feel so much more watered down when you start pairing them up. If I'm thinking specifically about Skyler, Hank,
they're both semi-complex characters.
Yes, but I don't think they're given as much love as other characters get in Better Call Saul.
It's the Walt and Jesse show.
Yeah.
Through and through. Even Saul is a one-dimensional, a character in that show.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to him.
But the thing with Walt and Jesse, at least in these earlier seasons, as far as I've noticed, I'm actually getting super annoyed by them.
The hot and cold nature of their relationship.
It's so much more less nuanced. When that specifically I think this is a great way to sum up their relationship, at least so far in the series. But the season 3, the episode The Fly, up until this point, it's cold natured, talking shit back and forth, like fighting like an old married couple, and then you get like really distant, deep conversation littered throughout where I don't know if I grasp onto it as emotionally as I do in Better Call Saul. Like, I think the characters in Better Call Saul are like Kim, Howard, Chuck, Jimmy. They feel so much more real.
Yeah. I think with Better Call Saul as well, the situations lead themselves to being so much more complex because you can kind of see where everybody is coming from, where in Breaking Bad, you're right, it's a little bit more one-dimensional.
They play into their tropes.
Yeah, it establishes tropes that it plays itself into, for sure. With Better Call Saul, I think that even when you like start extending outside of the circle of like the mainest of main characters, you have people like Clifford Maine, Richard Swikehart. You understand and empathize where they are in any given situation.
The show's ability to make something out of almost nothing, not to say that the drama isn't dramatic, because it is. It's like an archaeological dig where you know that there's a fossil there and you might see and know that it's a T-Rex, but you've got to like uncover all the little pieces in place where obviously it's a prequel, so I think it does this aspect better. In Breaking Bad, it's so much more forward driven.
The arc is so much more obvious.
It's linear. And in Better Call Saul, it takes its time with flashbacks more. Like, I think when you get to like know where Jimmy comes from, the family dynamic of between him and Chuck and their past, it really helps elevate the series. And then even when you go back in Breaking Bad and you get to see where Walt comes from and why he's driven, like he'll never let anybody get the better of him from like a business deal again. You know, I have such a harder time grasping onto that emotionally because it feels a little far-fetched. I mean, on paper, it's like wherever in history, maybe besides once, was a teacher ever a drug dealer to the extent, you know what I mean? But like Con Man feels more believable, and the things that happen in the series feel so much more comfortable and believable in that way. Like, I don't know if you'd ever see someone go to the lengths that Saul goes to in real life, but his character feels so much more grounded.
He's the much better protagonist out of the two series. I think it's like difficult to latch on to Better Call Saul initially because the arc of the series honestly isn't super apparent until like the third season.
I think the finale of the first season, when you get to find out that Chuck is behind the fact that Jimmy won't get hired on at HHM, kind of like throws you into, I think it's like a good way to set those next seasons following into like, oh, like there's more depth than what's being presented here. These characters are so much more fleshed out than you think. And in that early season, you know, I think by episode 2 or 3, like Tuco gets introduced.
The end of episode 1.
Yeah, yep. And episode 2, or you know, they're out in the desert. I think that was a good way to get, we've talked about this before, but like getting Breaking Bad people on board. But yeah, it becomes so much less about that. And I think that was the show's way of trying to get you intrigued. When did the series start? Because I was still in high school.
Saul debuted in 2015.
Yep.
I believe.
I graduated in 2017. And I remember my family starting to watch it. And I don't know that they ever finished it until recently.
Oh, they did. They went on to finish
They
it.
went on to finish it. My stepdad really likes it. I think the show will probably continue to grow. I hope people come to it, like people that haven't seen it. I've been trying to get my dad into it. I'm like, you got to watch this winter. Like when you're not doing anything and there's snow on the ground, you got to start the series.
Did he love Breaking Bad?
Yeah, he liked it. I mean, he fucking binged that shit. Let's stay up till fucking 1 o'clock in the morning, get up at 5 a.m. and do it again.
I have seen it grow over time. If you like spend any time on Twitter, Better Call Saul memes have like grown exponentially since like the first 5 seasons. There was like almost no buzz, and then this new one came out. Like they're ending the show, and all of a sudden I felt like I was seeing stuff about it all the time.
I mean, hell, I started it when the 6th season started because you were like probably episode 3 or 4 when I got on it, and it's probably why you recommended El Camino because you were in the kick again. And knowing you and you saying it's like your favorite show, like I'm like, okay, like, I have to give the time to it. I think it's hard to kind of like stack the series up, against each other because they're quite different, and it's easy. Same creators, same universe. One's a prequel, but I don't want to draw too many comparisons. I think in general, the show, it does so much more with such a little, and you already know where the characters go until season 6.
Yeah, you know where they'll end up eventually. But like when you're watching it, you kind of hope that they don't. Even though like the future of the series is inevitable, you keep hoping that Jimmy doesn't keep doing what he's doing. You wish that Mike would just spend some more time with his like granddaughter and shit. You're so invested in these characters that it really hurts to know that's where it's going.
I read a comment today on a YouTube video. The comment said, when you start the show, you can't wait for Jimmy to turn into Saul. And by the end of it, you wish he would have never turned into him. Like you wish he would have stayed Jimmy.
There.
Yeah, like it's funny because Saul is such a charismatic comic relief character in Breaking Bad, and then when you get back down to the roots of the character, it's so much more heartbreaking.
It is. It's more tragic than Walter White's story.
Correct.
It's kind of funny actually because when Saul was first announced, I said, let's not do this. Let's not retread this ground.
What a cash grab. Fucking sellouts.
Yeah. And I was like one of those people that like wasn't as into the Saul Goodman character in Breaking Bad as like many others were. I watched this series like literally live on TV from the beginning, every season. And even through like the first 2 seasons, I wasn't sold really. Like in real time, I wasn't super into it. And then I think it was in the 3rd season when we get to the episode Chicanery. That is literally when I became in love with the series, and it didn't let go after that point. And I think like after that, when you go back to rewatch seasons 1 and 2, they mean a whole lot more, knowing the context of where everything's going.
I can't tell you how excited I am to rewatch the series. Like when I get there, I'm gonna get so much more out of it because there were times where I honestly like didn't understand the implications of what was happening, and I think the majority of the series is set up that way. Things will happen, and I don't know if I was completely able to absorb them. Like I got to binge the series. I got to binge it up until like the last few weeks of season 6, and so I didn't ever have the time to like sit between weekly airings of the show.
Damn, dude, those 7-day waits between literally every episode of the series for me, painful. It was the worst.
I got to feel it at the end of season 6, and I actually like started to feel sorry for myself for some reason because I was like, oh my God, I wish I was on board with this from day one. Like I would have gotten so much more out of it. I would have fallen even more in love with it. But it might have taken me years like you to get up to that point. I may have fucking watched 3 episodes and been like,
may have abandoned it.
Yeah. But I think you leading me into it, I was really worried that I wasn't going to love it as much as you did. I'm like, oh my God, what if I don't like it? And like, what if I stop watching it? Like, what if Getter's disappointed?
I knew you'd like it.
When I started the series, it was back in like February or March, somewhere in there. And I was like playing Elden Ring while watching the show. Peak experience right there. I'm fucking getting my shit rocked and watching.
You were playing the game and watching the show at the same time?
Yeah.
How the hell? My ADHD brain, no way.
Yeah, I would get killed a few times. Like I would die a lot, like being like peeking over. It wasn't all the time. My typical routine with the show was I'd start watching it while playing the game, and then I'd quit the game and watch like 4 episodes, like give it my devotion. Because I'm like, oh, I can't beat this boss. Let me just watch the show. Kind of helped me get through the series quickly, though, to just kind of throw it on the side. When I don't got like a single player game, I like to like watch something or like listen to something on the side to kind of keep me engaged. When I play video games, it's so much more of a friendship multiplayer thing. Like I want to play games with people and do things with people. Watching something on the side helps me a lot, but that helped me get through the show. And I think by the end of season 1, I'm like, this is my shit.
So you were hooked.
I was
hooked right away.
I loved it. And we had our moments where, dude, I'd text you about shit. I mean, I'd be texting you after an episode. I'm like, dude, fucking Chuck just burned the fucking house down, or or whatever, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And you got to watch me grow into the show and catch up with you, and
I got to live vicariously through you.
And you're like, oh, dude, just wait till you get to this episode in this season. You'll see. That's fun. That elevated my experience while watching it, because I knew after an episode, even if I stopped for the night, I had to get to come into work and be like, dude, I watched up to episode 7 and this happened, and you're like, dude, you just wait till you get to that's the shit right there.
Yeah. I think Better Call Saul is split into 2 very separate arcs. Your first 3 seasons, you got Jimmy versus Chuck, and then seasons 4 through 6 are like him losing his moral compass completely.
Correct.
The introduction of Lalo, cartel shit.
Season 1, you get to learn about, like, he's trying to prove himself to Chuck, and Chuck keeps giving him the cold shoulder, and it gets deeper and deeper, where you find out from the beginning, like, Chuck just doesn't believe in him. And you find out throughout the series, like, yeah, it's because Jimmy would steal from their father's store, and then their father died 6 months later, and Chuck cannot get past that resentment.
He can't let it go. Even though I think it's like a little bit misconstrued in a way, where I think Jimmy was right in that situation.
Yes.
Because his father was a pushover, and they let people come in and take money.
The scene where one of the guys comes in asking for money, and his father walks away, that guy gives a little talk to Jimmy. He says, because his father is a pushover, he's not like a leader. He doesn't seem like somebody to look up to. And Jimmy sees somebody taking advantage of his father, but he sees that this man has power. He says, there's like wolves and sheeps in this world. Which one are you going to be? And his father was a sheep. And so immediately right then in that moment, he decides to start stealing money. And that becomes his moral compass. That becomes the way he views the world at a young age. And so you can empathize with him in that way. Even though it's wrong, you can understand his point of view.
And that's like every situation in the series, pretty much.
It becomes like Jimmy versus Chuck, or Jimmy versus Howard. There are these people in the way of him. And, you move later in the series where Jimmy does have respect through like Cliff Main and, his other peers. Like Kim respects him as a lawyer, even though, she can see the wrongdoings of him, but, she knows he's trying. But after a while, even though Jimmy gets comfortable in the respect of his peers, he doesn't have the respect of Howard or Chuck.
Chuck's respect is the one that matters the most, though.
It's he's the person that saved him. He got him out of this rough situation of like going to jail. He rehabilitated him. He gave him a job in the mailroom, and he wanted to do better for his brother and earn his respect and show him that he's not just slipping Jimmy. But he betrays that respect of the other characters because he knows no matter what he does, Chuck won't respect him. So he reverts back to his old ways through this newfound path of being a lawyer.
And for Chuck, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where if only he had given a little bit of something, then the events of the entire series might have like not even happened.
No, when Jimmy came to him and showed him, he passed the bar, and Chuck would have given him a job, given him a chance, it may have never happened. But the fact that Chuck's resentment got the better of him, and he used Howard to give Jimmy the cold shoulder after all of his hard work, it would have never happened. I mean, he might have married Kim. They might have both been lawyers, had the respect of everyone at HHM. It would have been like, a hero's journey. He'd have been fulfilled. But you already know the outcome of the character. So it's like...
But you still have that hope, though, when you're watching the TV.
It fools you. You completely, I swear...
You forget.
You forget what's going to happen.
And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. This show could have come lesser to Breaking Bad. And it'd have been like, yeah, they tried. Or, but like, I couldn't get hooked. Or, I don't see the point. But they did everything right. I don't know if I have any complaints. I mean, I think in season 6, I was really confused as to why things were happening. Up until that point, I didn't know I mean, you know that the events in Breaking Bad are going to happen, but the series, it kind of like pushed you into
Like, how are we going to get there?
Yeah, not that, and then like after, these black and white scenes with Gene, it didn't make much sense.
The Gene scenes are an interesting talking point because, like, for the first 5 seasons, it's literally the cold open of the first episode of each season. And then once you get to the 6th season, no cold open with Gene. You have to wait till episode 9 to
Really?
get there. Yeah. I don't know how much I liked that choice.
Season 6 opens up with like Saul in Breaking Bad time.
It's like his house being raided.
Yeah. Yep. Like people coming to like collect his things, like some sort of like repo place. I don't know, like a state collectors or something. Nice house.
This kind of leads me into the question of what were the setbacks of the series? Like, what's stuff that you didn't like that much?
Oh shit. I don't know. I don't know if I have many complaints. The series as a whole has been like a fucking love story for me the entire way. There were a few moments where I questioned the direction of the series. I guess maybe until season 6, where I was like, felt like things have kind of gone off the normal cues and pacings of the show, where like the patterns had changed, the way the series opened, or the season opens, and getting like 15 plus minutes of Gene, or like an episodes that are Gene episodes, felt really odd. But I think it's because I think the show has a hard time like bridging the gap.
It's not an easy thing to do. I think that Better Call Saul kind of spans more time than Breaking Bad did.
Yeah.
Like, we're going back to, okay, here's Jimmy as a kid. Here's Kim as a kid. Here's post Breaking Bad. Here's during Breaking Bad.
Jimmy in his early 20s or whatever.
Yeah, we're getting a lot more jumping around than what Breaking Bad did. I think that where it gets a little bit awkward in season 6 is that the final 4 episodes are all post Breaking Bad timeline. I think it might have been better if some of that was littered in earlier in the season, or like in the 5th season, maybe.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's not easy.
I don't know how you would tackle that angle, because it does feel like the Gene storyline, present day Saul, post Breaking Bad events, kind of grafted on to season 6 in a way, where they kind of don't fit. I think it's probably that pacing issue would be the biggest thing, because I think from seasons 1 through 5, it feels very fluid and
It's one story.
flows perfectly. And then in season 6, you kind of get like these climaxes of like Nacho, his storyline ending, Lalo's storyline ending, and like setting up for the Breaking Bad events, the closing of like Jimmy and Kim's relationship. And it feels like the series comes to a complete halt really quickly.
It does.
And then it like starts skipping time very rapidly to a point where it's a little disorienting as a viewer. And I think in retrospect, I didn't enjoy season 6 as much as I did the rest of the series. I think the season 6 mid-season finale is like peak of the series when it comes to the prequel aspect of the series. And then moving into the Gene episodes, it just felt like we were starting a new storyline, like almost a new show at the end of a series.
All new characters.
And you had to get to know them like very quickly and then wrap up the series. That was a little bothersome, but ultimately I think it does tackle the character well by the end.
The finale is beautiful.
Yeah. But I was a little worried, we had talked about it because, I had to take that time with you at the end of the series, where I think the show started back up after the mid-season finale. We started together. I think we caught up to the mid-season finale. I watched the mid-season finale with you, and then we finished the series side by side. And I kept telling you, like, oh my God, like it was really bizarre. I'm like worried that the series is going to end poorly. And you're like, I have faith. You're like, I have faith that they're going to finish it well.
I think like the official like Better Call Saul series ends with episode 9 of season 6, the episode Fun and Games, I believe, which is Kim and Jimmy breaking up. And that's kind of like your final moment in that timeline.
Yeah.
I think the end of the episode actually is where it jumps ahead to Saul Goodman sleeping around, being a dickhead.
Yep.
And then immediately after that, the next episode, which I think is Nippy. Now you've got Gene in the future, like befriending this old woman and like the taxi driver, Jeff. It's a little bit awkward at first. And I'm still not sure how sold I am on those first 2 Gene episodes.
I think the Gene episodes really start to take off when you get him conning the security guards, like playing this long game with them. That's where it starts to feel like back at home. That's where the series starts feeling like, okay, we're back to the roots of like...
Felt like season 1 type stuff.
Yeah, like real low stakes, Connery and shenanigans. That's when I started to feel like, okay, we're going somewhere with this. And then I think with the Gene episodes where you really got to feel the weight of the situation, because I think the Gene episodes are played off in a kind of like, haha, look where you're at now kind of feel. Like it's kind of like this degrading aspect of this character because you know he's capable of so much more.
Like, dude, why are you still doing this?
Yeah. Once you get back into the fun and games of him conning the security guards and kind of creating like a little ragtag skeleton crew of like other con men, they rob the mall. When I was at the mall with my fiance this weekend, I immediately was thinking of the shoplifting, the con. I'm like, oh, there's these shoes. Oh, there's the Steve Maddens. There's the perfume, the Louis Vuitton. And I'm like in a Dillard's. Seeing all this shit, and that was a nice moment for me, actually. I was like, I love this. I love the fucking series. But you get to feel the weight of the situation because it gets so much darker. His actions become so much more than what you've seen. Like there's a few moments where it feels like he's going to resort to violence, as a means to an end,
which is something he literally never does among the entire series. He starts to feel like Walter White a few times.
And the thing is, the series plays with your heartstrings a little bit with Saul is like loved and he resonates well with old people, with elderly. And by the end of the series, he's about to like strangle Marion with, is that her name?
Yeah.
With like a telephone cord, it feels like, or like a Ethernet cable for her laptop. It feels like such a betrayal, like the lowest of low points for the character.
It was super earned too.
I mean, it wasn't out of context. It didn't feel like a wrong choice writing wise, directionally for the character.
Yeah,
but it was like an homage back to like, I don't know, how charismatic and fun the series was, and then you get to this, and mind you, all that is in black and white, and it feels so much colder.
Here's reality
darker,
seeping in. The thing with like season 6. I have a hard time like digesting critically what it is because I think it has like some of the best episodes of the entire series. A lot of great climaxes. The episode Rockin' Hard Place, which is like Nacho's final episode.
You got like a Sicario cartel shootout at Lalo's, like, I don't know, what do you call that? Like a compound almost.
Yeah. I mean, that's the finale of season 5, I think.
Is it? I'm sorry.
Yeah. But that storyline bleeds into season 6, and that's where it kind of like reaches its end. Howard's final episode, Plan and Execution, one of the best of the series. Like, a lot of great standout episodes, like in a singular sense. But I think like season 6 gels together worse than prior seasons because of those Gene episodes at the end. I wanted to ask you actually, how'd you feel about the way they brought in like Walt and Jesse? I don't know if I was like super crazy about that first appearance by both of them.
Like that diner scene?
It's when they meet in the RV. Like when they
yeah.
I think the episode is literally called Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it is actually. That was a scene that I thought was actually kind of unearned.
I agree.
I don't really feel like anything happened
in that episode.
In that specific instance, like they couldn't get the RV to start. Like it felt like, I don't know, it kind of felt like an unearned Easter eggy.
It was like too fan servicey.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love seeing Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul like reprise these roles, but that episode was like
it didn't make much sense.
Those flash forwards, or like maybe they're flashbacks because we're in Gene territory. This all gets very confusing.
Continuity.
Yeah, they're. I wasn't like a huge fan of that episode really.
I think the one that I appreciated the most was when Saul and Walt are bunking up
and before like they get sent out. Like I think they're like in the basement of Robert Forster's house, like the vacuum guy.
You get to learn about the characters more. The synopsis is that Walt was never this way, but Jimmy was always this way from the beginning, and it's always been about the money and getting away with it. Where for Walt, it was like a means to an end, like a dying man's corrupted last wish for his family.
With Jimmy, it was just a way of life.
And the same with like the Bagman episode with Mike, and they're sitting out there, and Mike gives a synopsis of what's going to happen to you. He said, we all make our choices. And,
Bad choice road.
And if he had a time machine, he would go back to that moment where he like took his first bribe or whatever it was. It's like this. He wished he would have never let himself become corrupted. For Jimmy, he was corrupted at a very young age. And I think with season 6, it was really hard because you got to get like these really deep, character-driven, philosophical for each individual character moment. But they were so like removed from where they should have been placed in the series. Like it was really hard to like pull yourself and put yourself back in those shoes of, oh, like Chuck's talking to Jimmy and, Chuck's alive and Jimmy's bringing him groceries in a cooler or, stuff like that where it's hard. It's hard to get back in those shoes. Like I remember specifically like the time machine, the book on the island table or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. I had to have you explain it to me because I felt so lost.
I loved the time machine thing. and this is all like in the final episode, but you are getting like a send-off of your 3 major players of the series. With we get Jimmy, Mike, who's the third one that gets a time machine moment? Oh, Walt, where Jimmy asked Walt about his time machine moment.
That's in when they're bunking up.
Yeah. God, that final episode actually packs a lot of amazing.
It's an hour.
scenes.
It's an hour and a half, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot.
But I love that Jimmy's time machine moment is like a random, almost like mundane conversation with Chuck, where things could have changed if they would have literally just communicated a little bit better.
Yeah.
It leads to Jimmy propping up the biggest meth distributor in the fucking United States.
Piss break. I want to talk about like some of our favorite moments in the series.
Okay, I was going to ask you about moments and
Episodes.
episodes. Yeah.
I don't know if I have favorite episodes quite like you do. You're the type of person that can like sit down and throw on a random episode just for shits and giggles and your own enjoyment. For me, I haven't like really gotten there that like with the series yet. I want to rewatch it all the way through, and then I'm sure I'm gonna be like, I don't want to fucking rewatch it. Let's just watch this episode. But for you, I know definitely one is like chicanery.
It's number 1 for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you had led me into that episode like you were waiting for me to get there. And I do think the series starts to really feel like there's a lot of substance to everything that's happening, where all the plot lines are developed in a way where you can't get out of them and you can't become disinterested. Like the monologue delivered by Chuck it's rough.
It's among the best.
It's fucking rough. Because he's right.
Yeah, he's right all the way through. But you, as like the viewer, still say, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was my whole thing moving through the series. I'm like, dude, fuck Chuck. He's such an asshole, but he's right. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to root against Chuck because he's right. But you're so much more emotionally attached to Jimmy, and it's tough. I think the series does a great job of, if you're comparing it to Breaking Bad, I feel like a lot of Walt's actions are like not that surprising for the most part. Ultimately,
he's like going down in terms of morals.
There's no one to save Walt along the way. There's no one like rooting for Walt to get back on the straight and narrow. Mm-hmm.
even like in the like we're like minutes to midnight with Jimmy in like these final seasons. You have Kim to set him straight. Howard still has like a fixation on helping Jimmy. I mean, like he offers him a job in like I think the 4th or 5th season.
It's the 5th season, yeah.
And then what does Jimmy do? He throws bowling balls into his car.
That's one of my favorite moments in the film. Or in the film, Jesus. Fucking habitual over here. I'm used to referring to shit as the film. But yeah, I mean, I'm a god in human clothing. I shoot lightning bolts from my fingertips. I walk in worlds that, you can't even imagine.
It's one of my favorite moments.
We watched that episode together.
We did.
Is it like season 5, episode 10, I think?
It might be. It's close to the end of that one.
I think there was a lot to pull from in seasons 1 through 5 as far as like getting to like know Jimmy's character more. I'm like, remember the scholarship, kid,
The little girl? Yeah.
and Jimmy like is delivering these lines to an like unwilling ears basically, and he's like, because she has a tainted record just like him, and he's talking to himself. And I think that's one of the best moments in the series where he's like, they're always going to look down on you. They're always going to have something on you, but fuck them. You don't need them. And it's like
the moment you walk in that door, they've already decided how they feel about you.
Yep.
It's such a tragedy.
Yeah, it's tough now to be like, yeah, man, it fucking sucks. But I think the journey along the way is extremely beautiful, and even though a lot of it is tragic, and it never really feels like there's a moment of hoorah. You know what I mean?
Never.
But
we're always in transition of something else.
Yep.
Which might be a sign of a good series. We have intrigue leading into the next thing constantly.
The stuff with Howard, I think Howard as a character is among my favorite. Character-wise, he sits above Chuck and Kim for me outside of Saul.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, God, we're going to talk about him.
He'd fall behind those characters for me, but I understand why you feel that way.
He's the untainted character. He's the character that I think his only flaw and his only wrongdoing in the series that is his own fault is sending Kim to doc review. I think that was his one moment in the series where it felt like he had taken a step back and had kind of dug low like the rest of the characters. But outside of that, Howard has always respected Jimmy. What was his nickname for him?
Jimmy Hustle.
Yep.
Or Charlie Hustle.
Charlie Hustle.
I'm sorry.
Like, he's always respected Jimmy, and Chuck was always there to like move the pawn of Howard to do his dirty work. And I think Howard, for the most part, was always right. Even though like the doc review thing with Kim was like kind of like low hanging fruit for him as a character, but it's like this
is minor in comparison to the misdeeds of other characters. He only has like the image of the firm. Like he just wants to protect that throughout the series, and that's consistent for him.
And he always takes the blow for the betterment of the firm. He always, even in mid-season finale of season 6, I'll bounce back, or like I'll get back on my feet. I always have. Taking a loan to pay Chuck, for the betterment of the firm. He's such like a goody two shoes in this world of like assholes, and I feel bad. I think he's the most tragic character.
Oh, he is.
Like
in the entire universe of the series,
he's like the sacrificial lamb. And it's so, I'm sure we've talked about it on the podcast, like after we had watched it. I don't know what episode it's on, but we had watched the episode after the podcast, and we talked about it, the following one. I've never felt so terrible.
Yeah. He has the most impactful death of anyone.
The wrong place at the wrong time for the right reasons.
It's funny because he starts the series as kind of like your antagonist for a while. And of course, it's all like a misjudged situation.
It's
by
misdirection.
The audience.
Yeah, misdirection by the writers to that reveal that Chuck is the actual mastermind behind these plots against Jimmy is. It sucks, and you get to find that out through Howard's conversation with Kim, and even though it's not shown on screen, he's like close the door or whatever the fuck. And I think the series, quite literally for the characters and the viewers, becomes not fun anymore.
From that moment forward. Yeah.
Me and Elizabeth had gone to her sister and brother-in-law for like a get together, like with their friends, like just drinking and hanging out and playing cornhole and whatnot. And I talked to a guy about Better Call Saul, and I told him, like, I'm working through the series right now. I'm almost caught up with the mid-season finale, and I had talked to him about, I'm like, my friend says it is like heart thumping, and I'm like, is it really that big of a deal? And he even echoed you, and he goes, oh my God, you have no idea. This. I'm like, seriously, for this series, like, it can't be that big of a deal. It was that big of a deal.
Oh yeah, it was.
Well, I mean, we watched it together, and you got to see that reaction out of me. I do think I had like a 15 to 20 minute panic attack.
You did. I witnessed it.
There was so much time had passed. It felt like nothing, but it was forever, probably.
Mm-hmm. It was at least 10 minutes.
When Lalo walks on screen, I hyperventilated.
It's literally...
yeah.
Because you know it's coming.
Oh, my God. It's the worst. It broke my heart. Oh, my God. It broke my heart so much because he just like didn't deserve it at all. He didn't deserve all the shit that like Jimmy and Kim put on him and discredit him. And that was really fun.
Like the planning stages of the con. Yeah, it's lightweight until it isn't.
Oh, my God. It's such smart writing because you're so along for the ride until you're not.
God, there's so many things I want to talk about. I know we're gonna we could go 3 hours on this, and I wouldn't be upset
easily.
There's a few things I want to hit real badly.
Hit them.
Lalo.
Yeah. Fucking plot armor, bro.
He's literally not introduced until
season 4,
the 8th episode of. It might be the 9th episode actually of season 4, and he comes in and he like quite literally breaks down the door. Like he becomes the driving narrative force for the rest of the series.
It's kind of weird when you put it like that, but he affects all facets of the story. We've had plenty of time with Nacho, Mike, Gus, Salamancas, Jimmy, Kim, Howard, Chuck, these main players. I mean, Chuck's dead at this point, but it becomes like he's fighting like two wars on both sides. Like we have our cartel side and we have our law side, and Jimmy's our like vehicle or vessel to like play in between both of them. I mean, and that was obviously set up through Jimmy's interactions with Mike and Nacho, where we get to see both sides of those fence, but Jimmy never like comes face to face with Gus, or it's very bizarre.
He does, but unknowingly.
Yeah. But he the series has a weird thing where you're so invested in both sides of the story that you forget they never touch.
But then some of them do, like ones that you don't expect.
Kim and Mike was a big one.
Oh yeah, it was. And they have like the greatest moment together.
Yeah, I fucking love Mike.
Yeah, he's someone that we'll have to talk about briefly as well.
We don't have to do it briefly. We can talk for an hour. What are you talking about? But Lalo, he just like disrupts the operation, like very similar to like Walt. He becomes like such an antagonist for all characters.
He is kind of the Walt of this series. He comes in and fucks everything up for everybody. And he meets all of our major players. I think, as you said,
Kim,
Jimmy,
Gus,
Mike,
Howard,
Nacho.
Howard for 12 seconds.
And I think it's like commendable because Lalo doesn't have much screen time in the like grand scheme of the series. He disappears for long periods of time.
Yeah.
But
when he goes in hiding and presents himself as dead, he like moves in the shadows.
But even in his absence, his like presence is kind of felt like he's like lurking in the shadows kind of.
I remember when we had kind of talked about it, but like the fact that like Lalo was introduced so late, it was kind of a worrisome thing, I think, for probably both of us in a way where like we're introducing this character so late in the game. How much is he really going to affect the way things are going? writing wise, I mean, introducing a character that late feels really bizarre for a series of this complexity, like these deep character plot lines. But I think for the most part, Lalo, I don't really question him. I think he gets out of trouble a lot for the series.
Is this like the plot armor thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, like surviving an assassination.
There's a few moments that are a little funky with him.
But like for the most part, I'm like on board.
Yeah.
Like him, what was that guy? Was he like a FedEx office or something?
The travel wire.
Yeah.
Like he crawls through like the ceiling and it's like almost like a horror movie for a moment.
I don't know. I mean, like, do you have problems with the character?
With Lalo?
Yeah.
No, not really. No.
This is just a big fucking jerk off, me and you.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. I mean, like, it is a little bit funky, like him being able to, like, in this series that has been hyper realistic, he's kind of like the one movie character, like in this group of realistic people. But I'm not upset about that. Like, I think he makes his mark. His portrayal of this character is fantastic, very charismatic, but scary at the same time.
It feels like at any moment he can flip a switch.
Yeah.
And he has no problem getting his hands dirty.
A lot of movies and series do this thing where they try and give you like the friendly villain. I think Lalo sticks out because he literally never reverts to psychopath like in his personality.
Yeah, it's like very business oriented. I mean, it's always there's a purpose behind his actions.
Even when he shoots Howard Hamlin in the head, immediately it's shh, let's talk. Like he's never like angry.
Yeah, it's always like so textbook routine for him. The way he kills people. I mean, he had a guy shave his face before he killed him. You know, his body double.
He's cool as ice, no matter what.
Like going in and to Werner's wife, like meeting Werner's wife. Like I was like knowing what he's capable of. I was worried for her death. I don't know. Like I thought Lalo's death was fucking awesome. Gus, like kind of being a badass for a moment. Like that was really exciting. Gus is always a character where there will never be an unbuttoned button or a tie loose. You know, all the nuts and bolts need to be in perfect order. Even calling back to in the series where he has what's his face clean the fryer like 3 times.
Lyle,
poor fucking Lyle. God, what did Lyle think when he found out?
This is acceptable.
Yeah, like everything must be in perfect order. I loved watching Gus kind of like be the action hero for a second.
Yeah.
And that was really exciting for me. I felt like it was something that the series like helped elevate the character. Like it honestly didn't feel out of place because for the majority of that scene, it felt like Gus was like gonna die and it made you feel like this was the end for Gus.
Even though we know how he dies.
Yeah, you know. God, the disconnect that the series creates to keep you in the moment is really great.
I love all the character development with Mike over the series. This isn't something that we like really touched upon. I think he has a very simple arc. It's really just like honestly, it's like the same as Jimmy's. Really, just slowly losing your morals. Even though like I think Mike is more self-aware of what's happening. Like he's kind of like depressed about what he does.
Mike very rarely. I think Mike smiles 6 times in the series, like, and it's always with Kaylee, like his granddaughter.
Yeah, his solo episode in the first season, where he, like the flashback to Philly killing the cops. I think that's like a highlight of the series. He loses his
like tough guy persona.
He loses his humanity over time. Where like we're seeing somebody that's a very developed character kind of just become like a face in the crowd, and that is his character arc. Like he's a bodyguard now, and that's who he is in Breaking Bad. But this series gives him so much more gravitas.
Like there's like these power dynamics that he plays with Gus. You're starting to see, like, I think the series Mike at the beginning feels so much more autonomous and he kind of acts on his own free will and his own moral compass. And yeah, when he gets in with Gus and things become so much more developed, you know, where he's in the game deep now. He betrays his morals, specifically with Werner
Ziegler.
Yeah. He adds on to his character, though, in a subtle way with that, where in Full Measures in season 3, Mike and Walt, basically, Walt knows he's going to his death. He's about to, and he says, Mike, you don't have to do this. And Mike responds with, no, Walter, I think I do, or whatever the fuck. But in that moment, Mike feels so much colder. But in the context of this show, Mike doesn't like killing people. Like, it's not something he takes pride in. It's not like he's happy to do this dirty work. It's that Mike knows that he cannot do anything to change Gus's mind. And, in that scene, it's Walt coercing Gus, and that's when Gus changes his mind. Like, Mike didn't have anything, he had no say. Mike pleaded for Werner's life.
He did.
And it was like very small, very, very small. Werner didn't deserve to die.
No, he didn't. But he posed a great risk to this operation, and their hand was forced.
Yeah. God. And I think
that's one of my favorite fucking arcs of the show. Mike and Ziegler.
I think Mike and Nacho is
that too.
The other big one. And Mike and his daughter-in-law is a big one as well earlier on.
God, it's hard to hit all these notes. Is it not? Is. Like, every time we bring up a character, I'm like, oh, let's talk about this for the next 30 minutes. It's hard, man. We haven't talked about Nacho at all.
Nope.
Haven't talked about Kim.
We've got so much ground to cover.
How fucking far are we in this recording?
We're only an hour in. We'll be all right.
Okay.
Don't you think, those earlier moments with Mike in the series with his daughter-in-law were really telling for the character? Like, seeing him weep. No one likes to see an old man cry.
He really shows his human side a lot more. They even kind of hint at a semi-romance / friendship with that black woman that
Robin?
he meets.
Robin is her name?
It might be Robin. Yeah. It's never allowed to develop because I think he insults that group when he goes to therapy that one time about the faker guy.
He's so right.
He is, yeah.
But it does it at the cost of everyone else in that room, making them super uncomfortable. And he also takes a jab basically at everyone. He's like, oh, you come in here and you tell your sob stories and nothing ever changes. You're always sad. It's this. And he's right, to an extent, he is right. There's these people are afraid to move on in a way. They all tell the same story every week with a new angle on it. And Mike doesn't want to fucking hear it.
Once he cuts that tie, you literally never see that side of his character ever again. We never really return to...
it's Mike the businessman now, or Mike the bodyguard.
Yeah.
And his relationship with his daughter-in-law starts to kind of disintegrate in a way from that as well.
Yeah. We know that he still sees Kaylee and that kind of shit.
Their relationship grows colder because she knows that she can infer that he's into shady business now because he's getting large sums of money.
Yeah, showing up with black eyes and disappearing for a while because he gets stabbed at one point. Yeah,
I think the angle of Mike drowning his sorrows in alcohol is a really interesting one as well. You completely forget about it, God, in the context of the series, but
it's barely touched upon.
Him getting in fights to numb himself and. Excuse me, the walk home, getting in a fight with that.
Yeah.
This fucking gangbangers, they're fucking...
He kicks their ass too the first time.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, Mike's a badass. But he's such the character, hard shell, soft interior. And I love that character. I mean, he's tragic as well. I mean, what happens to him.
His final scene with Nacho's dad is heartbreaking. Because Nacho's dad calls him out on the bullshit, and he's right.
Yeah.
All you gangsters, you're all the same. What does it matter? What morality is there in this world?
You're all doing this at your own benefit. You're all think you're right, basically. You think you're doing right by yourselves. Yeah. And it's sad because that's the way he views his son. It's not only he's telling Mike what he thinks about Mike, he's also saying, my son's a part of this, and this is who my son has become, and it's very tragic. Mm-hmm. And I think we could probably lead into, like, Nacho from that. I think Nacho was a character that was an unexpected, feels like a little bit of like a fan favorite for me in a way, where he grows on you very slowly because he's a character that you have no idea.
He's like a semi-antagonist when he's first introduced.
Like robbing the Kettlemans.
He's like Tuco's right-hand man.
Mm-hmm. But his character becomes so much deeper than some cartel member. And I think this is a great way to draw a comparison. In Breaking Bad, all the cartel members feel like goons or like henchmen.
Yeah, I agree.
Even Tuco. Tuco's a psychopath, but you don't ever like really get to see any fun or like deep character development with that character. He's just crazy antagonist guy.
He's a plot device.
Yeah. But so is Nacho, but he becomes so much more.
Yeah. They really like seep you into it over time. And they never really, the series never really fully becomes like the Nacho show. He's like this random side plot that we will occasionally cut to. I remember like in seasons 4 and 5, there might be like 3 episodes where like he doesn't show up at all. And then all of a sudden, bam, like here's the cartel shit. This is what Notch is up to right now.
I think one of my favorite moments in the series is the pill swap. Like,
oh yeah, that's great.
Like, him training to swap the pills. The fact that Gus catches him, he becomes Gus's bitch. Like he becomes a tool, a weapon for Gus to use against the Salamancas.
Every attempt that Nacho makes to, which we like come to find out, like he wants to get out of the game. Every attempt he makes to get out of it somehow sinks him deeper into it.
And I think I didn't really understand Gus's point of view at that moment. I'm like, why is this guy so fucking pissed? And it's like, oh yeah, because Gus wants to be the guy to fucking ruin the Salamancas.
He wants Hector Salamanca's head on a plate, and he wants to be the man to do it. And then he never does.
No, he never gets there. Good. He doesn't deserve it. He's such a fucking dick.
Hector kills him, actually, in Breaking Bad, which is crazy.
Speaking of that scene specifically, that is such a far-fetched thing to do, to allow a two-faced fucking Gus to walk out of that room. That is the dumbest shit that the show ever did.
It is so movie.
Ugh, so stupid. It bothers me a lot.
Nah, I can take it one way or the other, It doesn't bug me, but I think it is very out of character for both of these series.
It's cinematic.
Piss break.
Let's talk about Kim Wexler.
Better nice.
Is this like your number one celebrity crush?
No. I don't know that I have a celebrity crush.
Nah, neither do I, really.
Bullshit.
What, Linda Cardellini? I'm not a big celebrity crush guy. I have a few, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't really care that much.
Nah. Kim's not that, she doesn't hold that place in my heart.
Yeah.
But
her character,
she's the best. She's an awesome character.
I think this is like top 3 Breaking Bad universe characters for me.
Oh, yeah. Does it go like Jimmy, Walt,
Kim? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I would say so. And like Jesse might be like a trailing behind. I love Kim so much because like her progress as a character is so slow over the series, where we're slowly seeing her break down her morals. Season 2, Chuck accuses them of changing the documents for the Mesa Verde case. And then by season 4, when they get Huel out of jail and Jimmy gets Kim to like commit mail fraud, and he's sitting there professing to her like, we don't have to do this ever again. Like, I'm sorry I made you do this. And Kim looks at him and says, let's do it again. I think that's like where like her character like truly like her arc becomes like a major focal point of the series. It's so much fun seeing Kim integrate herself into like the con lifestyle.
With Kim, I was really confused by her character. She actually felt like in the first season, like early on, felt really like kind of like a nothing character.
A boring relationship kind of, yeah.
Well, she was introduced like through a cigarette, and I'm like, what? Who is this? I'm like, did he just take a cigarette out of a lady's mouth that he doesn't know? Like, you have no context. She slowly grows into a deeply ingrained sidekick to Jimmy. So when she gets set up in the series, it does feel like she's almost like somebody that's just rooting for him. But when you get into like Mesa Verde and like going and seeing Kim's actions on her own, you realize like, gosh, she's like such a sweetheart, and she does things that like out of the goodness of her heart, and she wants the best for people. And then like there's just like this dark side of her that like betrays that aspect of her personality where she doesn't like mind getting her hands dirty. I don't know, like her character feels a little split personality in that way, but I don't think you really get to understand that until later on, where you kind of figure out like, oh yeah, like Kim's mom isn't the best, and that's how she grew up.
She kind of becomes like the mastermind behind a lot of the cons that they run in like season 5 and 6, where like she gets a little bit in over her head, and I guess that's kind of what leads to her departing from Jimmy. She was having too much fun, man. It's kind of like every time something big or traumatic happens in the series, that's when Kim decides to make a change. Like, oh, I'm going to quit Swikehart and Coakley. Like most of the big changes in her character happen after a big Jimmy fuck up.
Yeah, like a big mistake.
I don't know what it is about her that makes me love her so much. Her portrayal, like just the acting. Rhea Seahorn is like great as this character.
She always goes like the extra mile in like every aspect of like trying to be good and do things the right way, like picking up clients as a public defender, getting an outfit for her client, that maybe not have something nice to wear, meeting somebody for lunch, to talk. It's not super formal. She like gets down to the level of like understanding with her clients, going and talking to the guy that refuses to move his house. You know what I mean? For Mesa Verde.
I almost forgot about that.
Even though, like, she kind of coerces him and, becomes in, like, the Wexler versus McGill. It kind of feels, when she's on her own without Jimmy, she's always doing the right thing. Jimmy brings out that evil within her, like, this mischievous nature she has.
She somehow becomes worse than Jimmy when they're together.
And, like, it fuels the fire, man. And it's tragic in a way because I think that all leads back to, what if Chuck just gave him the job?
Would have avoided a whole lot of heartbreak and death along the way.
Like Kim and Jimmy would have always worked if Jimmy wouldn't become Saul. Like it would have worked.
Would it have though?
I don't know.
They get off on the high of like fucking people over.
It's kind of hot. Hey, don't kink shame, bro. Don't kink shame.
How many times do we see them like doing the deed or
Porking.
like immediately after they do a con?
They bring out the worst in each other, but they also like bring out the best in their worst attributes. It's really fun to watch until it's not. Conning the guy at the country club, the tequila. Oh, this is my sister, and we've this inheritance, and all that stuff was
Victor and Giselle.
Yeah, Giselle. I think a lot of that is Kim always stays true to her nature, though. I mean, Jimmy always wants to keep going, and then Kim wants to take that step back, and she's like, no, we got to get back to the law. When she comes and confronts him when he's like in the fucking pool, at the country club, like that's one of those moments.
Yeah.
But it like continues to get worse. It's just, by the end, though, I mean, Kim sticks true to her nature, in season 6, where they're split. She's back to helping people out of the goodness of her heart for like no pay, volunteer.
Kind of.
What do you mean?
Well, when we cut to her like in like the Jean timeline where she's like living with most boringest guy ever.
Oh my god.
Yep. Yep.
Like watching like The Amazing Race or some shit, like something dumb.
She only like really turns back over to her old side when Jimmy comes calling. That's what like kind of like brings her to like, okay, I'm gonna volunteer now. I'm gonna give all these details about the Howard Hamlin case. You would hope like after the series ends, that's the path that she's gonna take.
I think she does. I mean,
Yeah, I hope so.
yeah, I mean,
She's like the stronger human being among everybody almost in the entire like between both series, really.
I think she's the character that probably wrestles with her own morality the most. I think Jimmy, it's like, you know, Saul, it becomes very apparent. Even though he tries to redeem himself here and there throughout the series, it becomes like he's always taking a blow in a way where it's like to his reputation. He has to, what's her name? Hazel? What's the old lady's name? The representative of the case.
Oh man,
You know what I'm talking
I
about.
can't remember.
Sweet old lady. He has to like defame his reputation amongst the elderly, even though he was behind it the whole time. You know, he always is taking a blow to his reputation when he tries to take that step back into morality, and that keeps pushing him further down the line of like, oh, my reputation's already blown. Might as well continue what I'm doing.
His attempts at right doing always like blow back into his face.
And drive him to become more sinister, more weaselly.
Yeah.
With Kim, it feels like Jimmy's her conduit, and when they're together, it just becomes chaos. Obviously, Howard's death is the wake-up call for Kim to abandon what's going on here. And I think with Kim and Jimmy's relationship, a lot of the time, it felt like they were yes-manning each other, even though they both knew it was wrong, which even though, you know, they get married and it kind of feels like a little bit of a happy endings, like a storybook, or how do you put that, like fairy tale, you know what I mean? You know it's going to come crashing down eventually. And
Yeah.
like, Kim ain't around in Breaking Bad. Saul doesn't have a wife. Like, she's never mentioned. Like, you know this relationship has to end. And we both knew that going in to, like, season 6. It's tragic, but I think the relationship closes, like, fucking beautifully in the most fucked up way.
Are we talking about like the actual series finale?
Yeah, I mean, like, Saul confesses and redeems his name.
It's a great moment of him renouncing like his old self, and God, like the final episode actually I think is probably top 3 of the series.
Hell, I think it starts with him in the fucking dumpster or like running away from the cops or whatever, you know what I mean?
It does.
It was epic. I mean, him running away from the cops, straight off Marion making the phone call, and then you end up in the jail cell in the prison and stuff. I mean, I think with Kim, it's weird seeing her with brunette hair, by the way.
It is.
It's the weirdest fucking shit. I don't like it. Poor choice. Go back.
I disagree. I think she's hot with the the brunette hair. Both ways, really.
I like her when her hair's short in the jail cell, but no, I don't like the long brown. No. Sorry, buddy.
They do a great callback in that final scene that like echoes the very first episode with them like smoking against the wall. The lighting choice is like almost the exact same.
Perfect, dude.
It's very poetic. I don't know if like Breaking Bad really had that moment, like full circle kind of thing.
I think the only thing that kind of felt like that was Skylar and Walt's final conversation.
Yeah, and that was like amazing as well.
Him dying in the meth lab, him touching these giant vats and appreciating the equipment was, yeah, I mean, that's a...
Inappropriate send-off for that character.
But I don't know if it felt as deep.
It's funny that like Better Call Saul ends off with Jimmy feeling like the most important character of the entire universe. He's shown up in more episodes than any other character between both shows.
Yeah. I kind of prefer it that way.
Same.
I mean, I think Walt, I don't know, like, I hate Walt. I hate him.
Dude, his final appearance of the universe is him, like, being the biggest fucking dickhead. Mm-hmm. He's an ass. He's a self-serving, egotistical piece of shit.
It doesn't feel like there's ever any redeeming qualities about him.
No, not by the end. But Jimmy, though...
It becomes more tragic because you care so much more. There is like these like glimpses of him trying, you know what I mean? Where with Walt, I think it was like he had already killed himself like very early on in the series. Like he had already sacrificed.
By like the first episode.
Yeah, I mean, he becomes so comfortable with like losing it all right from the get-go, where it feels like he has no problem like destroying everything around him. Within like Better Call Saul, Jimmy's character, like it felt like it was not right, like it was like the right thing for him to do, but the pieces in place that pushed him that way, they aren't surprising. Like they help push the reason why he is the way he is. I mean, like he's deserving of his fate, but it's because of the actions of others around him that helped coerce his tragic flaws.
With Jimmy as the protagonist, I rooted for him no matter what throughout the entirety of the series, where Walt became like incredibly reprehensible. Like
He becomes the villain
many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the villain by the end.
Yeah.
By like season 3,
Yeah.
he's like the biggest piece of shit. Jimmy always feels like he's trying to bring the situation together up until a certain point near the 5th or 6th season where like things really get out of control for him. The fact that he's more of a meager, non-violent kind of character makes him so much more relatable. I might not continue that sentence.
Well, he does have a reason for the way he acts.
He does. I always feel like I can relate to him no matter what. Even though he might be in the wrong in that specific situation, I care about him.
It feels like
so much more.
It feels like the cards are stacked against him, and he's always working around those constraints in a way that isn't like completely and utterly disgusting compared to like what Walt might do.
You know how like Walt has his moment where in the first season or two he could go to Gretchen and Elliot and like the problem would be solved immediately. I don't know if Jimmy really ever has that moment in his story. I mean, he does have the job at like Clifford and Maine for a while, but you kind of understand why he wouldn't want to continue working in that environment. He doesn't have that moment where, oh, like poof, all of this could be set straight. While Walt does.
Walt's pride gets in the way.
His pride. Jimmy, I don't know if he has any pride at all, actually. He has like pride in his game, like his con game. But I mean, like when it comes to like human connection, like he always has something to fall back on.
I might disagree with you slightly because I think the way he treats Howard is a little bit prideful. But it comes out of resentment. It's literally Howard's way of trying to set things right because he's always wanted to give Jimmy the opportunity, but now that Chuck's gone, he can, but it feels like sacrilegious in a way.
Too little, too late.
And not to say that like Gretchen and Elliot couldn't have done, like that might be a similar situation, but I think the tension built up is so much more apparent in Better Call Saul, because in Breaking Bad, it kind of just feels a lot smaller than what it could have been. You know, it's not that slow burn. There isn't like this extreme tension built. It seems like you're kind of hopping in at the end of a situation.
Well, like seasons 1 through 3 of Breaking Bad was enough story for like in Better Call Saul pacing terms could have been like 6 seasons.
Yeah.
The first episode of Breaking Bad is almost like 8 episodes worth of material in Better Call Saul terms.
Oh my God, they would have dragged that out forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have, oh my God, it would have been so much more dialogue. I forgot that first episode is he literally goes out to the meth lab, like he drives the RV. Like it's very intense. I think the cold open for that first season is fucking amazing. Like I think it's better than Better Call Saul, but they're not the same show.
It's a better intro, yeah.
I don't know. Or did we miss anything?
We're always going to miss something with 6 seasons of material. Here, I'll leave us off on one fun question.
Okay.
I know we're closing out. Who's your favorite like minor character?
Who would classify a minor character?
Anybody outside of your Jimmy, Kim, Nacho, Howard, Chuck, Mike. Anybody outside of that? Who's your favorite like your bit-sized character?
Probably either Cliff Main or Kevin.
Kevin Wattell.
Kevin Wattell. I think with Kevin, he's such a douche, but in like the most fun way. well, listen, like, tell me here, Kim, are we gonna have any problems with it? You know, just like he's such a gimmick, like such a caricature of like a Southern banker, like big business guy.
We even get a great scene of Kim and Jimmy imitating his voice and shit.
I think like the drama surrounding that character with like Wexler versus McGill, the tension that built up into that moment was really, really great because you got to know all the characters well enough for that tension to really unwind, and you get like this. No, I'm gonna stay in here, Kim. I want to see this. Like just this bullshit of his pride taking over, and kind of like watching him fumble and not knowing what to do with like Jimmy's presence in the room. That was fun. And like with Cliff Main, I think he was another person that like gave Jimmy a shot. Like he like kind of echoes Howard in a way. Like he like believed in him and he respected him.
I always felt that disappointment by Cliff when Jimmy like obviously fucks up his job
On purpose. He wants that $25,000 signing bonus, but he can't have it if he quits, so he has to get fired. Like I loved his work culture. Like Cliff Main had set up like we're really relaxed around here. Like he's like, I got a guitar in my office. Like there are moments in the day where I need to just take a minute to myself, and if I can't figure something out, sometimes I want to sit here and play guitar to, you know what I mean? Just he seemed like such a great guy.
This is a great work environment.
Yeah. Like you've got, I don't know if her name's, I don't remember what the his intern
Aaron.
She's like a yes man. Like she's like always got things ready. You know, it's perfect, but it's too perfect for Jimmy, and it's sad because it's like it's ideal for what he would have wanted at HHM. You know what I mean? Even better so, probably. I mean, the culture seems so much more relaxed and fun and warm. Like HHM is even architecturally, color-wise, visually, it's like blue, cold. The office attire isn't as warm and inviting. And then like at Cliff Main, it's like more down-earth, like Southern ranch interiors. Like, I don't know, things just feel so much more fun. And like that might have been somewhere where Jimmy could thrive because it is more relaxed. And but to me, I think that's some of my favorite moments in the series. Like those early on, getting to know like law practice and like all these lawyers and people like interacting together. They're collaborating together. Like all these like gears moving in this big machine. Like that stuff was really fun. And I thought Cliff Main was such a nice guy. I don't know. I like he's so warm.
I love Cliff Main.
I mean, do you have like a favorite like minor character? I mean,
I do. I have a few actually.
Okay.
The Kettlemans.
Yeah.
For one.
Fuck yeah.
Especially Craig Kettleman. Kind of your unknowing like scapegoat, where his like wife is kind of the crazy one, and like she derives him to do illegal shit. Yeah. But he's kind of a dunce in the grand scheme of things. But my main favorite bit-sized character is Price.
Oh, yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. I almost completely forgot.
Our bald pharmaceutical criminal.
Uh-huh.
And I think he's like the best example of comedy in those early seasons, especially like his interactions with Mike, who's like your stone cold stoic character, and you got your like doofus next side to him.
Like when Mike crushes a guy's fucking larynx. Like, karate chops a guy in the fucking throat.
With Price, we have like this character that's not aware of the world he's in, kind of. He's almost like a cliche or like a parody of this. My baseball cards.
Oh my god. He like sells himself out basically to the police unknowingly.
Yeah,
he's a doofus. He's a fun one. God, those are some of the funnest shit. Because you get to see Mike kind of like steep down to this like tomfoolery level of like illegal activity.
Getting all these characters to react to Price having like the souped up Hummer. Like, I'm not getting in that thing. It looks like a school bus for 6-year-old pimps type shit.
Yeah. It screams drug dealer.
Yeah.
Even the cops think that when they walk in. They're like, oh, this guy's a fucking drug dealer. That was stupid.
My baseball cards.
They were here for my baseball cards. I mean, they're all gone. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't think we can give enough time to the amount that
No.
this series deserves, but
We would need like 90 minutes per season, probably.
But I think the fact that we aren't able to cover everything in the amount of time that we've given it speaks volumes to the series as a whole. I don't really ever think there's a dull moment of boredom. I mean,
No, not at all.
It's just about as tight as a show can get. And if we're gonna call back to Breaking Bad in itself at the time was like revolutionary. Not to say there hasn't been like great shows like The Sopranos or what have you, but
I think Breaking Bad is a 10 out of 10 show.
I think Better Call Saul feels like the best aspects of the show at full capacity all the time.
Yeah. If Breaking Bad is a 10 out of 10, I think Better Call Saul is like a 13 out of 10, considering like how strongly I feel about it. It's ruined TV for me. It's ruined movies, actually. A lot of movies. Cinematography. Didn't even talk about cinematography. Don't have time to do that. It's awesome.
There's so many shots that are like so over the top and unnecessary, but they gave it the time of day.
It's better than like 95% of the movies that we see.
You'll be inside of a trash can when someone's throwing trash away. I mean, like there's just a lot. There's a lot going on.
It's insane. Like, this was a love project. Everybody that was involved cared about it a ton, and I felt it.
Yeah, we love it too. And we appreciate the shit out of it. That's all I got.
Will this be like a record-setting bonus episode for us, in the fact that we are the most drunk, the most sloppy, and we went the most long?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been this hard this late in the game. I love the series. If you haven't watched it, well, why are you here? Yeah, I don't know. I love it. We did it. We've been waiting to do it for a while. This has been like months in the making, but we finally have we sat down and did it. But yeah, man, you know your TV and you recommend well, and I'll probably listen to you in the future because of it.
Thank you.
So
Severance is next for you, in my opinion.
yeah, probably. Yep, that's all I got. If you could do me the honors once again.
Adios.